Alright, what is going on YouTube? Bull Wololo for second qualifiers deciders. This is the second set. BacT versus Nicov. Nicov was one game away from qualifying to Bull Wololo 4 against MBL last round, but he ended up losing for free. This time he's going to be up against BacT. The winner gets into the main event. The loser will have no other chances to qualify for RBW4. We will have Nicov on the south in yellow as Ethiopians. To the north, it is going to be Franks for BacT in red. A very traditional civilization matchup, I must say, over here. We will have scouts coming in for BacT, whereas on the other side, we'll have Nicov with the early wars. He knows it's scouts coming, so he's gonna go for the small wars, but he's gonna have to check for this opening here because the scouts could be causing a lot of disaster if that remains open, and that sounds like that could be the case. Okay, Nicov checks for the hole. This is very important here. He always preaches that when he's coaching, and he's going to do that over here. Something that's extremely important because you see that BacT is coming aggressive with the scouts. Now, if you are fully evolved here, and you will open with archers and then spearmen, so like one spearman, 3 archers moving forward, that's going to be hard for BacT to defend, and indeed, BacT will be immediately forced to go for skirmishers in this one. Now, given the fact that BacT has skirmishers, Nicov is in a tough spot because this gold mine is very much exposed to him. So the skirmishers could deny his gold mine. It's also worth noting that Nikov's hunt is on the outside, which means he cannot safely take it, whereas BacT could send some wheels at the back of his base and take that hunt. And am I seeing a tower rush? Now, that is not something that you frequently see in Empire Wars, but I'm not against it. A tower here would be devastating to Nikov's economy. It would deny a wood line, it would deny a gold mine, and currently Nicov doesn't have the unit composition to deal with scouts and skirms. This is a bad tower, though. That's an awful tower. That is an awful tower. Why would BacT make a tower there? His opponent has 2 other wood lines at the back that are super safe. And the gold is wide open for towering. That's a 0 out of 10 tower. I have no idea what BacT was thinking. But honestly, he might have just lost the game with this one. Because now Nikov's gonna pull the wheels here. And the thing is that there isn't really a lot of skirmishers around, and the wheels will just bash down those skirms. What was BacT thinking here? I have no idea. He could have snuck a tower up here, and that gold mine is gone for Nicov. But that was never the case. And now, I mean, at this point, BacT's wheels are lucky if they make it back home. Now, there is quite a lot of scouts over here, and the spearman goes down, so it's a little bit wacky still. Empire Wars, and we still see wheel fighting, but have I mentioned that I think BacT is lucky if he makes it back home? Like, I have to say, I was praising BacT here at the beginning, before I actually sort of started the YouTube section recording, on playing really well recently. Like, this was awful. I don't even have words on how bad this was. The decision was awful, the execution was bad. This was a 0 out of 10 play over here. And he may have just lost the game because now he's 6 wheels behind. Because he also had 42 seconds of TC idle time. Nicov didn't have to do anything other than just wait inside his base and let BacT lose the game himself. Obviously the game is not over yet, but I mean, look at Nikov's resources. He's getting closer to waking up to Castle Age. He's gonna have scouts and soon knights to deal with the skirmishers. And he already has a decent amount of archers over here. This is a full disaster here for BacT. And I did mention at the beginning that I think for Nicov, in order to, you know, have his confidence, it's actually very, very good to win the Runestones game. So winning this and then just winning his own home maps is probably the winning recipe for him. That was the plan against MBL as well, but then that infamous crash restart drama happened, and because Nicov ended up losing Runestones, he fell short for free. He won all of his home maps against MBL, but in that set he ended up losing the Runestones game, and because of that, he wasn't able to qualify last week. But this start was absolutely awful here for BacT. He's still trying his best to clean this one up, but I mean, look at this, the spearman is still alive. I don't know what BacT is doing, but BacT seems super off today, or at least the first game or so. That Spearman was never focused down, that just cleaned up 3 scouts, and I mean, Nicov at this pace might even win this game in feudal, but he's going to click up into Castle Age soon. So, I just don't know what BacT can do here. Because these archers are now rampaging the eco of BacT. BacT was mining stone and he's gonna have to scramble for a defensive tower, but he's off from gold. It's 16 army against 1. And I feel like Nicov originally wanted to go up to Castle Age, but then he realized that, oh shoot, I'm having such a big advantage here military-wise that I might as well just press on and might try to finish off the game or secure an even bigger lead in like this late feudal scenario. And you see that everywhere you go, it's going better for Nicov. He actually sold a bit of a stone as well to go up to Castle Age, but he's gonna have scouts here, he's gonna have the archers, soon crossbows, to take down the Vils, and most importantly, he's gonna have knights against the skirmishers. There is defensive towers for BacT, but I guess from this point on, Nicov will just press on. He will make a siege workshop here and push this side. Take down the tower, and then the base of BacT is wide open. I feel like BacT just gave the game into the hands of Nicov with that absolutely horrendous tower rush. In general, tower rushes is not something that you frequently see in Empire Wars because your opponent can have a fairly big army stationed back at home. But nonetheless, that was even an awful position to drop that tower at. He tried towering a wood line, and the opponent always has 3 wood lines to work with, so I don't even know why he tried to tower a wood line and not the gold. If he went for a gold, I would have at least said that the idea was good, but without that, not even that is going in the favor of him. Now, BacT finds a way up into Castle Age over here, so I guess he still believes that he could be alright. Nicov actually commits against this tower, and he loses considerable numbers doing so. So, you kind of have to be careful here for Nicov not to throw away your army. But still, if this tower goes down, there is going to be a bunch of Vils going down, so I guess Nicov is going to be satisfied losing a couple of archers, and I think he lost a scout as well. Taking down the tower and also taking down the Vils, as we are going to have a second stable. But guess what? Ethiopians even have 3 pikemen. So Nicov not only will have crossbows and bodkin arrow, Nicov can and should add some pikemen here. That would have been a very, very nice addition. While he was going up, he mixes in 5 spearmen. Those will be automatically upgraded to pikemen immediately, and boom, he has 5 pikemen to work with in Castle Age. He's looping around, trying to hit the back of the wood line. There is, by the way, a hole here. Is there? Nope, there isn't. There is just a sneaky bush. Still, there is a massive hole here for the time being. And Nicov, he's gonna go for a push on the wood line. Looks like he's gonna play an eco-heavy game, so he knows that he's ahead. He doesn't need to have ballistics immediately. Instead, he's more like, okay, let's go for a mangonel push from this direction. He definitely needs some pikemen here to protect those mangonels, though, because BacT is gonna have knights over here. Although BacT is busy fighting over here, most likely. So there's a chance that the mangonel push would work anyways. But Nicov doesn't need ballistics here. It's more about, okay, I have an advantage. I just want to keep growing that advantage. And you see that he's idling the eco of BacT very, very heavily over here. And also, you have camos for Ethiopians, so they can also deal pretty decently. With knights, that's actually a 0 out of 10 mangonel micro there from Nicov. I think he patrolled in his camos, but the camos actually targeted the house instead, so it was a little bit wacky for Nicov. I like it though, that he's cleaning up the farms. If nothing else, destroy 5 farms, and that's also going to help, especially against Franks, where the food eco is pretty much essential, so destroying 4 or 5 farms over here is still value for Nicov. Nicov is all over this game, I would say. Like, this game I think was over when BacT lost 6 Vils in feudal to that tower rush, and Nicov didn't lose a single one of them. And you see that the knights do have +2 defense, but I mean, most of them are relatively weak. And look at Nicov, that's beautiful micro as well. He was body blocking the knights with the mangonel to make sure that they can't reach the mangonel, and boom, BacT realizes that it's just so over. A very, very puzzling decision from BacT to go for that tower. I really don't understand the concept of making a tower here. Let's assume that that tower goes up. Nicov says, okay, whatever, takes these Vils, goes back over here on the wood line. Obviously, that tower could be a nice staging ground for a second tower on the gold mine, and that could be a lot more threatening. But still, this is why I don't go for Empire Wars tower rushes. They are not supposed to work, and this loss here for BacT might bite back very, very easily, because he gave away a very, very easy game to Nicov. And this wasn't supposed to be this easy. Nicov, I think, had a way better execution all over the game, but still, I feel like BacT sort of gave a game here to Nicov, or at least made it very, very easy for Nicov to win that game. And you know, Nicov loves to play from an advantage position, because that way he can feel more confident, and there is less pressure on his shoulders. We will have Ethiopians having a victory over here, and the Franks having a defeat, as Runestones falls into the hands of Nicov. With this, we're going to the first home map of BacT, and I started to discuss that I think Northern Isles is a map where I actually favor Nicov over BacT, because while the map itself is actually water heavy and both players are pretty good on water, I just kind of feel like the map has so much in-depth meta, and it's so unique in many ways that Nicov could potentially surprise BacT over there. Eruption is a 50-50. Nicov lost it against MBL, but I think he had a pretty bad game plan over there, so we will see if he changed anything to see if, you know, he can have a slightly better game there. Marketplace, that's a 50-50 to me. That's leaning towards BacT a little bit, because that could be a relatively aggressive map, and I think BacT is probably going to play pretty aggressive in these games. Frigid Lake, it's a more of a Nicov map to me. Greenland is a Nicov map to me, and Acclivity, that's more of a BacT map, so I can see this one being close. At the beginning of the set, I set 4-3 for Nicov, but it depends on how BacT is playing, and the biggest problem with BacT's performance in tournaments was consistency. Every single tournament we discussed is that one day BacT plays like a top 5 player, the other one he plays like outside of top 20 player. And this first game was one of the latter, so BacT needs to find some consistency to be able to qualify over here. Good news, he may have not just been warmed up or something like that, so oftentimes we see that players who dominate in the first game won't have that dominant performance in the upcoming games, because the other player also sort of gets in shape for the upcoming games. But Nicov definitely has a lot of momentum, and it very much seems like we're going into Eruption. Interesting start. Nicov will probably be happy to get over that, because he's got bad memories with Eruption. When he played MBL, he played Byzantines, because he was anticipating Aztecs. There's a chance we're seeing Aztecs here for BacT, but Berbers is the alternative option. So Nicov has to weigh two possibilities. What if BacT goes Aztecs, and what if BacT goes Berbers? I think Byzantines could be a reasonable answer to both, but you gotta play them right. And when Nicov played Byzantines against MBL on this map, that wasn't really that great. And it looks like Nicov has different plans. BacT ends up going for Berbers, and Nicov is going for Teutons. I have a feeling that Nicov was anticipating BacT to go for Aztecs here, because Teutons versus Berbers seems like a somewhat unfavorable matchup. What? 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 That's a Teuton archer range. Now I'm confused. I'm actually very confused over here. Nicov is playing some 500 IQ mind games over here, but I'm a little bit scared for him, because I think he's overthinking situations very heavily. So I think he may have been anticipating Aztecs, and Teutons would have absolutely destroyed Aztecs. That would have been great. But Nicov ends up choosing, or BacT ends up choosing Berbers, which means that Teutons aren't that amazing against them. It's technically a matchup that is winnable for both sides. But still, Nicov is actually gonna play Teuton archers. What am I looking at here? First game BacT tower rushes in Empire Wars. Second game Nicov plays Teuton archers. Why? I mean, the idea is not completely off. I'm gonna have to give credit to Nicov for that, because keep in mind that one thing that Teutons will struggle really badly against in Castle Age is Camel Archers. So there is a possibility for Nicov to play a crossbow-heavy aggressive play and prevent his opponent from getting to Camel Archers, because the danger here for Nicov is that the BacT could go for full Camel Archers, so straight fast castle Camel Archers would mean that Nicov would struggle really badly against that. Teutons just don't have anything against it. So he might feel the need to go for an archer play here, but Teuton archers are kind of laughable. They do have crossbowmen, but they're missing thumb ring. In terms of other Castle Age upgrades, they do have it, so Teuton crossbows are just like Aztec crossbows in quality. We're gonna have a stable coming in here for BacT. He's hiding it from his opponent for the time being. And it looks like it's gonna be a straight fast castle. Now, these walls are all heavily reinforced for BacT. The weakest spots are over here, but you see that BacT can just make some contingency walls behind. So I don't think Nicov will ever have the chance to break in here. He's gonna go for some walls over here. Goes for a market. Even more interesting. He probably knows that he's pretty heavy on gold and he wants to buy himself up. He stopped making archers. So he will only go for a handful of them. And he will probably continue with knights as he's going for a stone-selling fast castle here. I am not sure if that was the original plan here. It kind of seems like a reaction to the fact that his opponent is just going for full defense in this one. Now BacT ends up losing a wheel here. That's actually very, very sloppy from him. He's going to get those houses up, that's for sure, but once this house goes down, I think you can deny some farming space. So Nikov's push here is actually doing some work. And, oh, on the other side, the scout of BacT trying to find a will be unsuccessful so far. So the house here is going to go down, which could allow these archers to range these gold miners. A second stable will be built here. Once we have Castle Age for BacT, he will make a knight or so and clean this one up, so that shouldn't be a problem anymore for him. And Nicov is pulling forward wheels. So this wants to be, I think, a Monk and Siege push maybe. Pike and Siege could also work against Berbers here. He sees the stable, so you should know that his opponent is going for cavalry. Because once you get Castle Age, the Teuton Spearman will get one extra melee armor, which helps quite a bit in this one. Forward barracks, it's gonna be a Pike and Siege, and I like it. Berbers oftentimes try to secure the middle by flooding cavalry. And that's not going to be a possibility if your opponent goes for Pike and Siege. Especially Teuton pikemen that are very, very powerful in Castle Age. Also, conversion resistance would mean that you can mix in a couple of knights to deal with scorpions. And it's going to be awfully hard for Berbers to stop this. Berbers have all their tools to do it with camel archers, but that takes so much time to get to, and it looks like BacT wasn't prepared for that. He's gonna go for a workshop. For the time being, goes for the knights. Nicov will withdraw, and I think he's looking for a place for a siege workshop to put down at. Here's the pikeman upgrade, and as I said, with the one armor that he researched, he already has 2 melee armor over here. So here comes the siege workshop. I think BacT is expecting this one now. Keep in mind that behind this one, the Teutons don't have to spend a lot on farms, which helps quite a bit in terms of, you know, affording this push over here. Because when you're doing such a push, your economy behind that one is relatively strained. Cheaper farms help quite a bit at sustaining a reasonable food income. What? Nicov. Nicov, what is this? Why do you need a second siege workshop when you are barely producing anything? This could be a big failure, or this could be something calculated. And it seems like it's calculated for Nicov. He's intentionally going double siege workshop mangonels, because he knows that the best way for BacT to defend against this one is his own mangonels. And it's not a bad idea for Nicov. It looks awkward, but if you think about it, as I said, BacT is gonna have one siege workshop defense. If you make 2 siege workshops, boom, you have a bunch of mangonels that his opponent is not gonna have a response to. The main question is, can he actually afford to produce pikemen on barracks and, you know, double siege workshop mangonels? I'm not so sure. BacT is going to launch a counterattack, but it's probably not going to yield any result because the walls are up for Nicov. Mangonel is already shelling the stable over here. And we're gonna have a defensive Mangonel coming in here for BacT as well. This is looking solid for Nicov. How to jinx a player in 5 seconds. Tutorial by the professional Age of Empires caster. I mean, Nicov has seen worse days, but the pikeman just opened up the gate for all those knights. There was no hole. That was the pikeman opening up the gate. That's a disaster. There wasn't a hole. I was looking at that. There is no hole here. The pikeman was coming outside and the knights were coming inside, and the timing was lining up perfectly, so the pikeman just opened the gate for the knights over here. Now, on the other side, the same thing for Nicov! The same thing for Nicov, and these are the disasters that he can't afford to let happen. Oh, his plan is going to fall apart on this. That one pikeman might lose him the game. That one pikeman might lose him the game. The same thing happened. The villager that finishes the gate opens it up and the knights can run in. And now, I mean, yeah, sure, these knights are getting cleaned up. But behind this one, BacT has 13 villas lead now. So he just needs to defend now and he's gonna be all good. Obviously, it's easier said than done because one thing that BacT doesn't have is this safe gold mine over here, but obviously it's much easier to pull off this defense when you manage to disintegrate Nikov's economy. Nicov lost 11 villas in this process. Without that, I think Nicov would have had a massive advantage overall. Here come the pikemen, but once again, BacT is diving in to snap the mangonels. It looks like BacT is having a much better situation now over here, and most importantly, he's mining stone, which puts the two-tone player on a massive timer. Indeed, there was a hole here. It was hard to spot, and it could have mattered anyways, but the pikeman opened up the gates, so the knights got in through the gates anyways. It's totally true that if the pikeman didn't open it up, there would have been a hole here anyways, but still, now the hole has been fixed, and BacT can no longer counterattack. But Nicov is already in a tough position because he's no longer actively pushing his opponent's base here. Even though he takes down a mangonel now, he's probably going to lose his own though in the process. The best thing that he can do is cut off the escape path for the knights here so that the knights cannot return home. But anyways, as I said, BacT is 53 villas against 45, and he's close to defensive castle. A defensive castle makes any, like, pike and siege push completely impossible. And because of that, once you have the camel archers popping out as well, Nikov's gonna be in a very tough spot. There's a hole. There is a hole. Okay, now there is no holes, but the knights can just bash their way through those weak palisade foundations. It looks like Nicov this time is going to be alright. And as I said, the castle is imminent here for BacT. The question now is not if he's gonna drop it, but where is he gonna drop it at? There is a nice space over here to drop it. And yeah, he's going elsewhere. He actually snuck a bunch of villas out on the left side. And he's going for a hill over here. Nicov. Disaster. Full-on disaster here for Nicov. The knights break through the walls, and there is gonna be 2 holes. No, it's actually just 1 hole over here. The knights run past it. I'm going to give credit to Nicov here. Walling this hill is extremely painful. So it's really not easy to do it, because oftentimes the location of the walls is very deceiving because of those elevations. But I mean, at this point, Nicov is in a very tough spot. He's got knights in his eco, although he seems to be able to clean them up, but as I said, Nicov is the player with the timer for him. So once camel archers start popping out, there's absolutely nothing that he can do against BacT here. Now that's a pretty scary push though, and as I said, BacT sort of took a gamble by making the castle over here to control the middle and sort of giving up the front of his base. We will see if this gamble pays off. So far it seems like it because he snipes down one mangonel, tries to pick off the others as Nicov just ground attacks his own pikeman. BacT is very close to dropping a second castle here. So we're gonna have probably a defensive castle this time because he needs to ensure that he doesn't get his base leveled. But Nicov is full pikeman. Nicov may still have a small chance here if he's able to steamroll this part of BacT's base here before BacT can get a defensive castle up. But like worst case scenario for BacT's defensive castle over here, bit of a mangonel dancing coming in, and the knights from BacT will jump on the mangonels. Nicely done. And look at this micro from BacT. This is why I said that I feel like in the first game he just wasn't warmed up, because now this is destruction, this is massacre. He just destroyed all of those mangonels, and that gives him the ability to get the castle up over here. The TC fire will kill the pikeman, and he will save the mangonel, and this final 20 seconds probably convinced Nicov that, oh boy, this game is gone. And BacT strikes back in a very, very, very convincing fashion, I must say. So now it's an even scoreline, and the good news for Nicov is that he just needs to win his own home maps to win the set. The bad news is that this game was very, very dominant here for BacT, so if BacT continues to perform the level that he has done in this game, then Nikov's gonna have a tough time, and this is what I was referring to. This is what I was referring to here, that, you know, the thing is that one game BacT plays like a top 10 player, like this one, and then one game he feels like he's just completely off from every possible way, and that was the first game over here. So BacT is going to be winning this game over here with the Teutons gone for Nicov. And we're also gonna have Berbers gone for BacT. So scoreline is even Steven, and we're going to play one of the home maps here for Nicov, Acclivity, Frigid Lake, or Greenland. It's hard to say which of these would be the best for him, but I would say Frigid Lake might make the most sense. It's a little bit more slower paced, and that could help him, you know, settle his things. And like for Nicov, I think he needs to probably settle down a little bit. Just absorb this defeat over here. Think about it for a moment. You don't really want to go back into something that's super aggressive, like Greenland at the beginning or Acclivity. Both of those are something that can spiral out of control in 2 minutes. So I think for Nicov here, it might be better if we're seeing like a slower paced game, something like Frigid Lake, as I said. Alright, I'm going to take a really quick break over here because guess what? I'm getting quite exhausted. So we'll be back in a couple of moments when we continue with the next game. The players are still in the lobby setting it up, so you're not gonna miss anything. So we'll be back in a matter of moments. Alright, welcome back everybody. We are going to Greenland, so we will have a Byzantines versus Portuguese scenario over here. Let's jump into game number 3. Welcome to Greenland. We're going to have Nicov as Byzantines in yellow on the left, and on the right side we're going to have Portuguese for BacT in red. Not something that I expected here. When I saw the civilization draft with Portuguese, I was like, where is he going to use Portuguese at? And it seems that Greenland is the plan, which is interesting because the usual meta on this map is Saracens, going for the galleys to secure the middle, and then the market to buy yourself up to Castle Age. Now, this is one of those matchups where both civilizations have bonuses for their fire galleys, Byzantines attacking faster and Portuguese having them cheaper and also higher HP. But it looks like BacT is gonna go for Portuguese. Portuguese is a decent civilization here if you think about it, in general. And that also opens the possibility of using Saracens elsewhere. That's the positive side of using Portuguese here. The map generation this time spawns in a way that the only crossing is in the middle. You see that, right? Sometimes it spawns with other crossings on the sides, but not this time. The only crossing is in the middle. There is a pretty wide crossing here, but there is no flanking positions like over here or over here to cross the ice. So whoever controls the water is going to have a massive advantage. And it looks like Nicov is pulling the boys. So Nicov going in with the Vils, potentially to go for a tower on the opponent's fish. There is already a defensive tower coming in here for BacT though. Nikov's game plan is probably something like a skirm and spear, or instead of skirms most likely we're going to see fire galleys, and tower rush, just like you would see on technically the predecessor of this map in Red Bull Wololo, which was Astlan. So the good news here for Nicov is that he pulled 4 Vils that are not his fisherman, which means that currently BacT has to keep his fisherman inside the tower, which means no fishing. Other side, Nicov is fishing. So the food income for Nicov is much better over here because he's using other villagers to push away his opponent from the resources. The demo actually ends up being fairly inefficient here, only hitting 1 fire galley. It could have been better, but for now, it very much seems like this defensive tower here will work out nicely for BacT. Byzantines have higher HP on their towers, so their tower rushes can be pretty devastating, as there is going to be just a scout left here from BacT's army. He's got some galleys out on the field though, and he's waiting for the opportunity to strike. He doesn't want to pop out just yet, but once he has like fletching and 4 or 5 galleys, he will pop them out, especially with demos accompanying them. He will pop them out, get in here, snipe this Vil, and destroy this tower, and then those galleys will push on towards Nicov. Nicov, however, as I said, is having a much better food eco because of the fact that currently he's the only person that's having shore fishing over here. BacT has an opportunity for a good demo strike over here, and the good old-fashioned BacT pause is going to be a thing here for us, so we're gonna have to wait a little bit until the players actually continue. That's a pretty common sight in BacT's games. So looking at the base of the players real quick, it seems like the primary gold is very safe for BacT. Oftentimes the primary gold spawns on the front, and that makes it very exposed to aggression. This is not the case this time. On the other side, it is definitely the case for Nicov, so he definitely needs to be the aggressor, because otherwise his gold mine is dangerously exposed here with little to no fallback options. As we're continuing on here after this short break, the demo actually gets a nice hit in here, sinking 1 and heavily damaging another. As the galleys now pop out, it's only 3 galleys though, but I guess the demo is gonna have a crucial role here. They probably want to get the... oh, the tower is shooting at the ships, that's why. That's why BacT is taking this little corner, but it still seems like Nicov is having the upper hand in this one, because behind this, BacT is out of stone and Nicov isn't. So BacT is going to lose this tower over here in all certainty. Now the galleys might still be enough for BacT to try and compensate, but the truth of the matter is that currently Nicov is the only player with fishing eco here, and that allows him to get a much better Castle Age timing. The main reason why, as I said, the sort of predecessor of this map, Aslam, was removed from the Red Bull Wololo map pool, which was basically a similar map but only had shorefish on land in the middle and no water, is that this map can snowball really easily. Whoever controls the middle is suddenly gonna have a way better food eco than the opponent. If you think about it, if BacT didn't have this fishing income over here, which is just a random lucky map generation that he actually finds deep fish that he can take with the whales, then he would have basically just a couple of farms with no horse color, whereas for Nicov, he doesn't have to invest into farms, and he also has a lot more, like, fast-paced, or just a better food income in general. So, I think Nicov is in a great spot here, as the galley numbers are steadily rising for BacT, but considering that Nicov is almost up to Castle Age, I would assume that Fireship will come in the foreseeable future, and Fireship should be able to defeat the galleys over here. There's gonna be some demos as well here, but like one of these docks is almost done, and this map, as I said, is one of the most snowbally maps, especially because if you consider that whoever controls the middle will pretty much control all possible options to cross the ice. So from that point on, the other player's space is basically not gonna be exposed to any kind of aggression. And honestly, Nikov's resources are so good, especially the food income, that with the cheap Byzantine Imperial, it's even possible that we are going to see like a faster Imperial Age from him. I'm not going to say he's gonna rush it, he's gonna get the eco upgrades, but with such a good food income, Imperial Age is not a distant dream for Nicov either. He's waiting for careening and he's waiting for Fireship. After that, he wants to sandwich that fleet in here in between his Fireships. So you see, here come his Fireships. And this is the time that he has been waiting for. There's a demo raft, but that's not going to do much against the Fireships. It actually takes a big shot, but another big shot actually. There was another one coming out, and that completely changes the complexity of things, as BacT escapes what could have been a fatal trap. So BacT preserves his galley numbers for the time being, the Fireships relentlessly chasing right now. Nicov is already on 2 TCs, whereas BacT will definitely try to come back on water. And one thing for the galleys here is that they are much more reasonable as a solution long term. So they preserve their value a lot better, they are less exposed to demos. So there's a lot to love about galleys, given the fact that you can keep them alive against Fireships, and that might not be the case here, because Nicov is sending in Fireships from all directions, and you see that he's going to use these Fireships here to block these galleys, and boom, before the galleys will be upgraded to war galleys, most of them go down the drain. Beautiful demo over here from BacT once again, as another demo comes in here, sinking 2, and another one could sink a couple more, but still, this is at best an even fight for BacT, I would say, because remember that you also have to calculate in the price of the demos, and those galleys, or war galleys going down, especially when you account for the fact that you have to research Botkin as well for them, probably still going to be more cost efficient for Nicov, and remember, he's the one that is having the insane food eco from shore fishing. So, we are now gonna have the push coming in here from the Fireships. The problem here is for BacT is that he no longer has that big mass of war galleys, and with war galleys you always need a big mass. He's going for full demos right now, but behind this one Nicov is just pulling ahead in eco, and that's the danger here that you're facing. Once you get forced up from the middle, your economy is set back so much, and your opponent has such an easy time booming, because the shore fishing income from food actually allows you to go for an insane economical expansion. You can just facilitate villager production so easily, and you see that right now it's basically just demos for BacT. And the thing is that if Nicov splits up his Fireships, then these demos won't accomplish much. A demo needs to hit at least 2 ships to be efficient. Like this one, for example. That was a good demo for BacT over there. Another good demo, now that was a beautiful demo, that's -3 Fireships here for Nicov. Nicov still needs to be careful because, as I said, the big danger of Fireships is that demos can sink them relatively easily. But still, forward siege workshop not coming in, keep in mind that BacT was focusing full water. And you see why I'm saying that whoever loses the middle is going to have its food eco pretty much destroyed. He's got 5 farms. That's not enough to make vills on a TC, let alone make army. And Nicov in exchange has 24 vills on food, and because of all this short fishing income, he was able to establish a 2 TC eco. He can also add farms now because he was able to afford the upgrades for them. So this map, the biggest drawback of this one is that this is an absolutely snowbally map. Whoever wins the middle, like 95% of the time, wins the battle. And that was the main problem with Astlan as well. Obviously the water element tweaks things a little bit, but it still doesn't change the fact that whoever loses the middle suddenly has to invest into a lot of farms, and the opponent is gonna have a very, very good food income. So it's a combination of the opponent having an advantage over you, and you're also having a disadvantage by having to go for the farms instead of the short fishing. And as I said, when you have such a good and consistent food income like short fishing, and you're not spending food to basically anything other than making vills, you can get into Imperial really fast. So Nicov had a wacky previous game, but I have to say that this game once again is clinically executed. He's playing really well in this one. The KD is dead even, but that's very, very misleading, because what you have to look at is the resources gathered, the overall vill count of this one. Nicov is gonna go for a TC on the stone, which means that we will probably see a castle at some point. Bit of a harassment coming in here. Funnily enough, and this is an interesting stat about the game, we had so much fighting in the middle, yet not a single villager was lost in this game so far. Not a single villager was killed so far. That is an interesting stat, and we're gonna have organ guns here for BacT. I have bad news for you. At this point, Nicov will just prevent those organ guns from crossing, and this is what I was referring to. There's a crossing here, there's a crossing here, and there's a crossing here. All of those are controlled by Nicov. And this is why this map is so snowbally. There is no chance for the player that falls behind to just, I don't know, assemble a horde of 20 light cav and push into the opponent's base. I would like to compare this a little bit to Hidden Cup High Tide. If you remember how High Tide was played, everybody went for water for fishing, but whoever lost water started going for land. And basically, that meant that if one player over-invested into water control, he fell behind in land combat and he get overrun by land units. If you compare it to this map, what is the difference? Here, the player that loses water and loses the middle is unable to compensate by having a bigger land army, because his land army is physically unable to reach the opponent's base. If there was crossings over here as well, and over here as well, then it would be way less snowbally, because that way the player that falls off from water, for example, could assemble some cavalry and push into the opponent's base, or some archers. But this way, whoever controls the water is gonna have a completely safe base. And we're gonna have chemistry coming in. Nicov doesn't have his own castle, so he won't go for traps, he will go for bombard cannons, and most likely... I'm not sure if he's gonna go arbalest. Probably not. He will probably just go bombard cannons and just start leveling buildings over here and play this one slowly. His opponent is nowhere close to reaching Imperial. So, okay, there's a forward vill here, so Nicov will make sure that even if he loses water control, he's gonna have a foothold on the opponent's island. That's a wise decision, I would say. I like that idea. That he needs to ensure that even if he loses control over the water, he will have a foothold. There's actually a little pond over here. I don't think that this is supposed to be here. This is probably just a map generation glitch. So, for the time being, the castle of BacT is overlooking this crossing, but we already have bombard cannons coming in to take it down in decent quantities, and Nicov is getting ready to drop his own castle as well, which, to be honest, could be a castle here as well to control the crossing, or he could also try dropping a castle right here. What could BacT do to stop that? The war galleys would destroy, alongside the bombard cannons, anything that can actually try to stop that. Like, at this point, BacT has 4 army, 3 organ guns, 1 spearman. None of these work versus war galleys or bombard cannons, especially when the war galleys just pick off the organ guns for free. I mean, BacT's got 2 army. BacT is so done for this game. And Nicov, indeed, Nicov can literally walk in here and drop a castle here, because his opponent has absolutely nothing to stop him. In fact, I think the biggest thing that Nicov needs is like 2 archers, just to make sure that he can walk in and just kill Vils. He's going to make a castle here on the left side instead. So, Nicov doesn't want to overcommit, he wants to play a safe game here. This will control 2 gold mines, so it's actually a very, very nice castle. And I would love to see these Vils being sent to this gold mine, so that he can actually, you know, take away gold from the opponent. And we're gonna have trebs, and it looks like an archer range, so chances are we are seeing arbalests here eventually. Treb is an interesting decision when you already have 4 bombard cannons. I would have loved to see some catapracts instead, because the catapracts would start doing damage to the eco immediately, and you see that in the moment the castle goes down, 28 galleons come in here, start shelling the buildings, and you can just get the bombard cannons in here, start taking down TCs. That's the imp TC of BacT. And in such situations, Nicov knows really well, oh yeah, BacT is done. BacT is done. So, BacT knew exactly that he's not gonna get to Imperial. He was going into Imperial on this TC. He just deleted everything here, so nothing to look at. Like, it's... not sure if this is tilt from BacT or he's just laughing at this, but it's definitely awkward that he didn't just, you know, say GG. It was like, delete everything and boom. But he definitely got clapped pretty badly in this game. And as I said, when you're up into Imperial and your opponent isn't, you're trying to snipe the TCs, because that way you can potentially delay your opponent being into Imp even more so. So the thing is that Nikov's job here was to snipe TCs, and he would have started with this one and then this one. So there was a 99.9% chance that Nicov will destroy the Imp TC here. The Imp was at like 30% in, but still, even in Imperial Age, BacT had 0 army to stop this. Look at this. Even if you assume that there is like houses here and TCs, hit the barracks and that's it. So with that, Nicov takes over. Very convincing game once again. So we're going back into the lobby. It's interesting that so far what I'm seeing is that Nicov plays a lot more confidently. It was the previous game that ended in a disaster, but if you think about it, it mostly ended in a disaster because Nikov's eco fell apart because of those knights breaking in. It was like one mistake making it completely, like, destroying Nikov's chances entirely. Whereas on the other side, over here in this one, he was very, very convincing. And this was this was his first home map. I did mention that his own home maps are the maps to win for him. So let's see what we have. We have Portuguese gone over here for BacT, and the Byzantines are gonna be gone for Nicov, and Nicov ends up winning Greenland over here for a 2-1 scoreline. So Nicov, all he needs to do to win this set is just to win his home maps. He has made the first step towards that. Wins a very convincing game on Greenland, which brings us to Northern Isles or Marketplace. So let's see what BacT goes for, because I think the 2 maps are very, very, very different in style. So if BacT goes for a more aggressive, fast-paced land map, then he probably wants to go for a Marketplace. Whereas on the other side, Northern Isles is a little bit harder to figure out because there's so many ways you can play it. And I'm not saying that Northern Isles is necessarily slower paced than Marketplace. In fact, I think it's faster paced because your early landings are so important to, around there. Considering that Portuguese is gone, for Northern Isles, we might see Saracens or Japanese might be the reasonable pick here. Although I think he has Khmer. So Khmer is going to go for Frigid Lake. Khmer could have been a nice backup for Frigid Lake, but considering that he has Khmer here, Northern Isles might be Japanese because he wants to keep his fishing eco alive for a long time. And that would leave Acclivity with Aztecs and Marketplace with Huns. That's probably going to be the plan. So Marketplace Huns, Aztecs for acclivity, and then go Japanese on Northern Isles, and just scratch your head why he hasn't picked Saracens on this map. Whereas on the other side, for Nicov, he's got his top pick Britain still in. That feels like an acclivity pick to me. Or it could have been Arabia as well. Tatars feels like a map civ that only is reasonable for acclivity. Frigid Lake could also be a place for Tatars, but it's a little bit eh. Marketplace Northern Isles, no chance. Italians is probably gonna be a Northern Isles civ. Mayans could also be reasonable for acclivity, but the only civ that I actually see like super legitimate for Marketplace might be Indians. Indians or Tatars. None of these is something I like necessarily. We're going to Northern Isles though, with an Italians versus Japanese matchup. So it seems I was right about this one. Italians versus Japanese coming in here. BacT versus Nicov, as we will jump into game number 4. Nicov 2 games away from winning. BacT needs to mount a mini comeback over here to have a chance at qualifying for Redbull Wololo 4. In the previous round, he actually lost to Dogao 4-2 in the final round, so it was relatively close to qualifying, yet not close enough. I have to say that BacT is getting tough opponents in the final rounds, so last time he got Dogao, this time he's getting Nicov. So it's a little bit hard to evaluate how good he's playing when he's constantly getting tough opponents like that in important rounds. So we're jumping into the next game over here. Welcome to Northern Isles. We're going to have Nicov on the left side in yellow as Italians. Right side is going to be BacT as Japanese in red. Scout will be transported through by BacT, and that is all. And on the other side, we will have a Scout as well. So neither of the players will actually go for super aggressive landings, or at least for the time being. We'll just do some scouting around. Now, let's talk about BacT's map here for a moment, which is absolutely horrendous. This gold mine is awful, undefendable, and disastrous. And the same can be said of this one. And this gold mine is also on the other side of the wood line. BacT doesn't have safe gold. A landing here could be devastating for him. Compare that to Nikov's map, who doesn't have a great gold mine either. So, you see that this gold mine is not great. Game, map script, hello? That's a mining camp that spawned inside a gold mine. Now that's a new thing if I've ever seen one. I'm not going to say it's inefficient though. It's actually super duper efficient, to be precise. It's a mining camp that spawned on top of the gold piles. What is that even? Anyways, we're gonna have a second dock here for Nicov. So Nicov probably wants to play water game here, and same for BacT. That's definitely an interesting setup. When this map was introduced in the Redbull map pack, like namely for this event, the meta was always landing and basically no water fighting. It looks like we have gotten to a point where we are not actually having... oh! This might be a restart. I'm honestly not sure if this is a mining camp that justifies an admin restart. Because... it could be just a pause from BacT. I don't think this justifies an admin restart. Because, well, it looks awful. I don't think that this influences the game in a positive or negative way by any means. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that it actually, like, actively hurts the player. It looks like the tiles that the mining camp is overlapping with is actually mineable. So, I would safely say that this is not something that would justify an admin restart. But I guess I'm not the admin. So we're gonna have archers coming over here by Nicov. This will be spotted by BacT. So BacT knows that, hey, there is archers coming over. Is it actually a benefit for Nicov? I'm not sure, because keep in mind that because of the mining camp being here, his wheels can only mine here. So they have to bump into each other here. I'm really unsure if... I don't think there is an easy way of telling if this is something that helps him, hurts him, or it's neutral. But I feel like this is not... It's not a bigger thing than, you know, BacT spawning with this outside gold mine over here. So I don't think that's something that really calls for an admin restart. It's definitely looking awkward though, and something that needs to be fixed for future. If unsure, do you have to give it a restart to remove the uncertainty? I would say no. I would say an admin restart should be called in... Like, the thing is that the players have already been playing. The players have already showed strategies to each other, and if you call an admin restart, you completely reset everything. So, I think the way that it should go is that you only call an admin restart if you are 100% certain that it needs to be called, because there is a game-influencing advantage or disadvantage for a given player. So... yeah, you have to be 100% certain in restarts, I would say. Now, Japanese fishing ships being super duper tanky means that the BacT is gonna have a safe fishing geek over here, tries to get a demo in, and ends up being very inefficient with that. As the archers come in, on the other side, Nicov is gonna try to quick wall, but I guess even the ibexes are laming him, and the ibexes are blocking the house foundation. So that was a little bit harder than it should have been for Nicov. The TC is gonna go up, and with the TC fire, he should be able to scare away those skirms and archers. Meanwhile, remember that BacT actually went for some defensive skirmishers, which helped him clean up Nikov's landing. And we have Castle Age in for both players, War Galley on the way for both as well. We already have Nicov finishing it, and Nicov tried trapping this army in here. He actually opened up the walls, pulled a veil to make a house here, to try and trap that army and then destroy it with the town center. Nikov's going to be playing 2 TCs, he still has his fishing eco alive, with 8 fire galleys. Whereas on the other side, we will have BacT with a decent amount of docks already. But guess what? The fishing eco kind of has to migrate here for BacT, because there is some fire ships pushing from the back, which means that the idle time on BacT's fishing eco is going to be considerable, and he's about to sink this transport. Is this transport even going to get to the other island? There's a chance it won't. BacT's units here might go stranded. Oh! Look at these guys! That wasn't the original destination. They just got stranded here in the middle of nowhere. Oh, lol. Lol. I mean, the decision is okay from BacT. At least he's gonna have some units here, which prevents a monk from picking up relics. Obviously, this wasn't the plan at all, but at least he didn't lose all his units, right? We're gonna have Mangonel coming in here from Nicov to try and clean up this force that's still harassing his island. Behind this one, Nicov is also sending in fire galleys, or fire ships now, to destroy the fishing eco of the opponent, and at this point, Nicov has a free wheels lead, because it very much seems like that is coming from the TCs. Nicov only lost 1 wheel, BacT killed just 1, so it seems like no one actually killed the fishing eco of the opponent for a time being. We're gonna have a monastery here for Nicov, partially to collect the relics, but also because you could potentially expect knights landing from your opponent, and let's see if that's something that BacT is gonna go for. Not really right now. Some demos are coming in here, and demos could demo snipe fishing ships against a civ that's not like Japanese, but here, oh, that could be a so good option here for Nicov. Is he gonna go for it? He could just come in here, like loop in here, and hit the middle of that group, and that would still sink like 6 fishing ships, and it would be worth it. Like, sinking 6 fishing ships for a couple of demos is still worth it. As he's waiting, he's coming in, and I like how, considering that these are undefended, he's not actually using his demos. Fire ships will do as well. On the other side, he's also cleaning this one up with the mangonels, and suddenly, after the fishing eco goes down from our red player, and that Nicov is also adding some fish himself to the 4 starting fishing ships he started with, added to the fact that Nicov actually took a decent fight here, His army numbers are still low, that's absolutely true, so it's 12 fire galleys for BacT and only 4 for Nicov, but Nicov is now just all about the booming game. So 62 wheels versus 48. He has managed to leverage his advantage on water initially with the fishing eco and just go for an earlier second town center, and that's what we are seeing as a result. Second piece is up for BacT as well, but that just means that the wheel differential is not going to increase. And, well, these archers will forever be stranded here. Now, considering that BacT has a bigger fleet, he could definitely destroy Nikov's fishing eco, which would help compensate for the villager numbers. But we are actually going, to the stage where fishing is going to be less significant than it used to be 5 minutes ago, and farming is going to take a more and more important role here. Worth noting that Nicov does have a monastery, but he hasn't started picking up relics over here for the time being. As Nicov has 3 docks on the front, his opponent only has 1, which means production is much better here for Nicov, who also makes human barbecue out of these archers. Demo comes in, nice demo shot over there from BacT. As BacT is getting closer and closer to getting to the fishing eco of Nicov, I think Nicov realized, and he's going for the fire galley or fire ship over here. Goes for university as well, and considering that he's got a decent resource bank with Italians, it's very possible that we're going to see an Imperial Age over here for him for fast fires. The demo connection was alright for BacT, but it wasn't amazing, as Nicov will sound retreat over here. BacT switching into War Galley is something that Nicov is going to have to do as well in order to remain competitive on the water, but I think he might be luring BacT into a trap here with the demo. BacT looks like he's not going to overextend, just stays on the defensive, and he's also thinking about going into Imperial Age. The 2 players should hit Imp relatively at the same time, but Nicov has a slightly better eco among the 2. So, here is Imperial Age in a matter of moments for Nicov when he gets the resources needed for Italians. Other side, BacT is gonna have enough to click into Imperial with the standard rate of clicking up, so to say. So Nicov just a couple of seconds faster than BacT over here in that one. That couple of seconds might still matter if he goes for fast fires, because he could potentially take a fight that is quite uncomfortable for BacT, and oh, BacT, disaster. That's a disaster. That's 3 extremely good demo shots for Nicov there, and suddenly the navy numbers even out. That's exactly the type of demo hits that Nicov needed to even out this situation. 3rd TC is coming in here for BacT, but he still hasn't clicked up. Is him it? Oh, BacT was missing the 2nd building. BacT just lost half of his fleet and he's missing the 2nd building, which hurts even more. Because, oh, demo coming in here for BacT. Nicov reacts at an acceptable level, but he could have done better splitting off those ships. Still, the big deal is that BacT just now clicks up. He had the resource to click up like a minute ago, but he never had the 2nd building, and because of that Nicov is going to possess a 1 minute advantage into Imp. And that 1 minute is a very, very long 1 minute here for BacT, because that's exactly the time Nicov needs to go for like fast fires and start sinking the ships, then use transports. He already has careening, transport a couple of wheels over and start going condottieri, which is probably the next step with Italians. So looks like Nicov is going to just retreat over here for now. Let's see if he mixes in some demos. Looks like not, but he will soon have fast fires, and then he will be able to take this fight without any problems. BacT is trying to repair this dock over here as much as possible, because he knows that this is his only naval production facility here on the front. The rest of them are all at the back, so it takes a lot of time for the ships that BacT is making to get from the back of his base to the front of his base here. So Imperial Age is in. Quick succession, fast fire, shipwright, dry dock. Now, Nicov is one of the players that preaches that dry dock is a super important upgrade, so is shipwright. Obviously, all high-level players know that, but some of them delay it a little bit. But Nicov is one of those players that likes to grab it like ASAP, basically. With the demos that BacT has had here, Nikov's ships are kind of damaged, and he doesn't really have the fleet over here right now to take this fight, which buys some time for BacT. Still, BacT is coming in with some more demos, and it's going to be awfully hard to hold against these fast fires, but still, I think that Nicov needs to remain proactive, and did that demo just suicide the dock? That was very underwhelming. When I played Age of Empires 2 as a kid, I only played islands against, like, standard AI. That's some beautiful demo hits here, some beautiful demo hits! So what I started saying with the story before Nicov absolutely thrown away his entire fleet is that when I was a kid, I only played islands against standard AI, and I used demos to destroy docks only. So I had like groups of 20 demos ramming down docks. That's what I remembered out of that. Anyways, BacT is able to keep his docks alive here, and remember that once he gets to good galleon numbers, suddenly the fast fires will no longer be that good, because galleons are always superior in late game to fire ships. Because you can preserve the value of fire ships or galleons a lot better, plus they are less exposed to demos. Still, that's quite a lot of fast fires over here, so the galleons will need some sort of meat shield in front to be able to fight this one. Defensive castle comes up for BacT, as we're gonna have Nicov coming in to destroy one of these docks over here at the back of BacT's base. Nicov, on the other hand, is gonna be the first player to drop a castle in the middle, and this could be extremely important. Both players with 2 relics, but Nicov is in a position to secure the third one, and this is the main difference between this map and, let's say, normal islands. You would have a large amount of gold and stone in the middle, which is enough for the player controlling the middle to outlast the opponent. So there's a chance that now we're going to see a very defensive gameplay from Nicov, and he will just sit on his lead, mining the gold, mining the stone over here, picking up the relic, and just ensuring that his opponent can't access this gold and stone, and from that point on, BacT will be on a timer. BacT is going ballistics just now for the galleons, also going for fast fires himself, and we'll have Nicov dropping watchtowers with the bracer chemistry just now coming in. Once chemistry finishes, we're probably going to see ballistics and heated shot as well. In this fight, however, demos once again getting some nice hits, and BacT has been all over the place with his demos. So Nicov has had some underwhelming fights with the fast fires, but guess what? Do you want some tomatoes with that sandwich? Because now that is a beautiful sandwich, and that is why Nicov, as we have another pause over here, that is why Nicov actually took that fight. Because a sandwich like this one is able to completely annihilate all those galleons. I think it may be worth the risk, and, well, the actual calculated risk of losing all those fast fires. So, yes, sure, you lost like 6-7 demos, but the potential chance to take down 15-20 galleons is probably greater than, you know, the risk of losing all those fast fires to the demos over here. If there was 2 more demos, this could have been way worse over here for our yellow player, Nicov. So at this point, he's the one that is probably gonna pick up this relic in the middle. He's the one that is gonna have the towers. This is looking really good for Nicov, I'm not gonna lie, because on the water it's fairly easy, as we are gonna have the player controlling the middle just trying to defend here. So Nicov, it's very possible he will switch to galleons at some point. It's gonna be a slow process, but there's a chance that he will start doing it in the next couple of moments. And still nothing. So I guess we're just gonna wait until the players decide to unpause and get going. As I mentioned that, here we go, and the sandwich actually ends up being a pretty decent Still, demos are on the way, and remember that Nikov's fleet is actually heavily damaged over here, so demo shots like that are not really acceptable. And this was probably a better fight for BacT. Both of these players are pretty adept in naval combat, And I would say that the fights that Nicov is taking are worse than the ones that our BacT is taking. Still, it looks like we're gonna have a good old-fashioned Imperial Age tower rush. It's ambitious to try and tower rush Japanese, though. Still, that's probably the best thing that Nicov can do right now. He's also trying to burn these ladies that are coming to take down the trap. And the trap is taking the TC, interestingly. That's a debatable decision, but behind this one, while BacT was busy, you know, fighting with the vehicles, getting some cav archers out to destroy those, he actually loses the most of his fleet, and I don't think that Nicov needs to be that much more proactive, because as I said, he has the middle, but it looks like he will just try to play this one in a way that he finishes off the game before BacT would have any chance of coming back. So right now it's 36 army against 24, and as I said, Nicov will switch to galleons, so he's gonna use his window over here to sort of switch into galleons while his opponent is busy containing the damage that this could cause. And I did mention that this is one of the gold mines of BacT. One of the 3 remaining gold mines, but 2 of those gold mines are very, very low. So BacT could run out of gold even before he actually finishes all the gold on his island. Because this one is now gone for him. Nicov is swimming in gold right now, like literally. There's gonna be a castle being dropped here by BacT. He knows exactly that he needs to clean that one up, but that's not gonna happen. And Nicov takes game number 4 over here as well. Very convincing game once again for him, despite the fact that, you know, his water fights were way inferior to that of BacT's. It was more about the macro and being able to expand the economy once he has gotten a small lead. And that was the economy that he sort of leveraged. So if you take a look at this one, resources over here are basically dead even. BacT collected 3 more resources than Nicov did overall. But the gold count is better for Nicov. And this is the part where, if you take a look at the population share, this is like 55-45. Because Nicov had a much better eco overall in here. And that is what fueled this faster Imperial Age. And with that, we're going into the lobby. Nicov is 1 game away from getting into Redbull Wololo for main event, while BacT is in a rough spot now. So he has just lost his Japanese, as Nicov is going to lose Italians. Whereas on the other side, we're going to have a Nicov win for Northern Isles as well. Match point for Nicov coming in what is going to be the last home map of BacT, Marketplace. That's an interesting map, because as I said, it's pretty aggressive land focused, which to me feels like a 50-50 map that might be slightly favoring BacT, but Nikov's execution was better throughout the majority of the games, which could mean that Nicov could just out-micro his opponent, have a slightly better APM at the beginning, and get some will kills early on, or just wall up in time to contain BacT's damage. And if the players are able to wall up, and the game slows down, then the macro of Nicov is probably going to be better than the macro of BacT here. So economical expansion once again could be on the side of Nicov. Remaining civs are Britons, Mayans, Tatars, Indians for Nicov. I would say that the Britons is a bit of a gamble here, because you don't have mobility, so you really count on finishing your walls in time. But once you finish your walls, Britons will be an insanely strong civ to play here. Tatars generally decent, same thing with Indians, and there's Mayans. The other side is probably gonna be either Saracens or Huns now, I would say. Because normally you would be keeping Khmer for Frigid Lake, and probably Aztecs for Acclivity, I would assume. Saracens could be an intriguing civ pick, and that might be the reason why Nicov picks Britons. The alternative is Huns. So that's what Nicov has to weigh. Is my opponent going to pick Huns here, or Saracens, maybe Aztecs? Khmer is almost guaranteed that it's going for Frigid Lake. So that's something that Nicov knows as well. If his opponent is picking Saracens, Britons is a very good pick here. If his opponent is picking Huns, I probably prefer Indians. But I don't really like Indians against Saracens in exchange. So Britons might be the safest pick, or maybe Mayans. Mayans could also work really nicely in all situations. Well, let's see, they are set up with the game, so we will get going in the next couple of moments. We'll have two other semi or decider sets after this one. I've been streaming for 7.5 hours, and I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised on how awake I am, so to say. Like, I expected to be half dead by the middle of the stream, but I woke up at 5 a.m. to cast today, and I've been doing it for 7 hours, and I feel very much super fresh. So, we're going into Marketplace. Aztecs versus Mayans will be our Civ matchup. So, good old-fashioned Meso War. I feel like this is one of those situations where Aztecs is not really a good civilization for Marketplace. It's not a bad one, but it's more about, you know, there could be other better uses for Aztecs. The main question is that I think BacT is using Aztecs here because that might be the best remaining civilization for him out of the Saracens, Aztecs, Huns trio. So, obviously, as I said, Khmer is not a factor here because you don't want to waste Khmer in case you still have to go for Frigid Lake. And Khmer wouldn't be that super duper amazing on this map either. So, it would make quite a lot of sense to just pick your best Civ here if you're BacT in an effort to try and just win this game. And obviously, you know, you might have wanted to use Aztecs elsewhere, but if you lose this game, it doesn't matter. Saving civs is not a thing when you are one game away from being defeated here in this set. So we're gonna have a very, very unfortunate archery range position here for BacT. We will have BacT on the north as Aztecs in red, and to the south, it is going to be Nicov as yellow Mayans, but that's a very, very unlucky spot for an archery range for BacT, because his opponent is to the left of him and not to the right. And you see that BacT is looking for him. Look at the course that BacT's scout is running around. He's like, where is this guy at? Where is this guy at? And he can't find him. And since Nicov is here, this archer range is very, very awfully positioned because Nicov will attack from the left side. Now BacT is gonna go for some early wars, but there might be a hole here or so, so he's gotta be careful. Eagle coming in here from BacT, trying to intercept the archer reinforcement. Same thing happens on the other side. So when it comes to a Meso Mirror, the heart and soul of that is continuous Eagle production. Because eventually, you want to go for an Eagle Warrior switching Castle Age. So in Feudal Age, you want to have a consistent Eagle production, because that's going to be your bullet sponge, that's going to be the unit that deals with skirmishers. So Archer Eagle or Skirm Eagle doesn't matter that much because it depends on the micro, on which is better. But you need to have Eagles in your army in Empire Wars Meso. So it very much seems like this fight was won by Nicov, and I did mention at the beginning of this game that I believe that this map is actually fairly aggressive and the execution so far seemed to be better for Nicov, so I was leaning towards him. You know, if he can catch a good start here, then he could be the one that prevails. We have a lot of T-side time for BacT here. Almost a minute as opposed to 20 seconds. That probably comes from the fact that you have to micro a lot of stuff here. BacT is technically gonna be fold on the left side, but there could be a hole here. I'm not 100% sure. Nicov is slowly walling the left side, but he is keeping track of the opponent's army. He knows he's coming from the right side, which means that the walls will come up on the left. Now it looks like this is going to be a slower paced game over here, and considering that the fighting is going on the right side, the arch ranges being on the right actually is good at the end for the players. I would have assumed that the fighting is going to go on the left side, but I guess BacT started marching to the right side, and Nicov just reacted, so they ended up fighting on the right side instead of the left. That's quite a significant amount of skirms here for BacT, and that's going to make life really hard here for Nicov, because he's losing his archers, and guess what, BacT is taking a pretty decent engagement over here, but if the ego goes down, suddenly Nicov is gonna be able to take down all those skirmishers, so it's a very back and forth battle, It's an interesting triangle that archers will die to the skirmishers, but they do pretty decently against eagles that do not have the defense upgrade. So feudal age archers in decent numbers like 5, 6, 7 actually deal with the feudal age eagles pretty decently because you don't have huge eagle numbers because of the production limitation. On the other hand, the skirmishers will pick up the archers and the eagles will pick up the skirms. So it's a nice little triangle over here of counters. And you're seeing that Nicov is trying to focus down the opponent's eagles with the archers, open up the possibility for his own to push the skirms. Nicov instead is going to go for a faster castle age over here, and that's the first decision point. Is he going to go full eagles? Mayans could theoretically work towards plumed archers as well. It's definitely possible. I'm not saying it's the right decision to make to go straight plumed archer here. In fact, it's definitely not, because you could easily get overrun by eagles. But also, Aztec against Aztecs, in the Castle Age, Aztecs should have the advantage when it comes to Eagle Warrior Wars, because of the production speed. It's going to be only a second barracks just now coming in though for a red player, and Nicov, one of the reasons why he fell behind in fighting over here is because he didn't really have the production to... Or, well, he had the production for the Eagles, but he actually wanted to go for Castle Age, that's what I wanted to say. So, yeah, he had the Eagle production, but he was probably idling his barracks here a little bit, because I think these barracks were up for a long time now. Definitely earlier than BacT's barracks, and BacT is only going for 2 barracks here, so there's a chance we're going to see an eco-heavy approach here for BacT, whereas Nikov's gonna go full triple barracks Eagles in this one, and BacT will soon see that. BacT just got +1 defense as well, but Eagle Warrior already in for Nicov, and that's where things are getting heated up here for BacT. He's gonna have to wall himself off, and I wonder if he knows about this hole here. He does, so he should know that he needs to wall that one up as well, otherwise Nikov's gonna overrun him. And it looks like Nicov, despite the fact that he's triple barracks, he's not gonna go super full on Eagles. He will actually have 2 more TCs. Now, don't ask me how it's possible to make 3 TCs and 3 barracks work with 6 wheels on food, because it kind of seems impossible to me. But Nicov might know something that we don't. He actually has gotten the eco upgrade, so that's definitely progress for him. And now he seems to be consistently making eagles, which means that the TCs will pretty much be all idle for now. Chainmail in as well for our red player, so he's gonna have +1/+2 on his Eagle Warriors. Nicov only has +1 defense. Nicov has the numbers advantage 16-7, which is a massive numbers advantage. However, the upgrades for Nicov are way weaker than that of BacT's. HWM Rocker, thank you so much for the Prime sub. Welcome, I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. We're going to have a second TC coming in here for BacT, as he's up to 10 eagles. Nicov has about the same amount here, and as I said, BacT has better upgrades, so this is a fight that BacT could take if he wants to. Keep in mind that once the game slows down and we don't actually have a lot of rating in the ecos, Nikov's economical expansion was better in the previous game, and it was also better in the Greenland game. So a slower paced game seems to be favoring Nicov so far, and that's exactly what we're seeing over here. He's already ahead by 7 whales plus horse color, which is also a nice little edge over here for him. And a monastery. A monastery. That's a puzzling decision. And an overchop here. This could be fatal for BacT. He overchopped this wood line, and while it's only 1 eagle right now, it could soon be 5 if Nicov realizes this. He just needs to keep this eagle here and prevent a revolt, which is eventually going to happen, so I guess this lonely eagle will just keep stabbing while he actually goes down to the TC fire. Still, at this point, Nicov already has a 10 wheels lead, and his eco is looking a lot more solid. In fact, he's floating a lot of gold, so his eco balance is sort of all over the place. I don't understand the monastery here, though. Like, it's good to heal egos, but converting egos isn't really a thing here. And picking up relics, I'm not sure if that's your number one priority here if you're BacT. Now, one thing is sure, Nicov went for an eco-heavy upgrade or approach, but he never really bothered walling himself up to a decent extent on the right side. And now he might pay the price, because now BacT is coming in and he's got +1/+2 on those Eagles. Nikov's Eagles only have +1 defense, and now the upgrades are better for BacT, but the numbers are even. So this is troublesome for Nicov, and Nicov may have gone a little too greedily over here. He's actually heavy on stone, so I wonder if he wanted to switch into plumed archers. The main problem that he's facing is that he's chasing 4 Eagles with 12 of his own, which leaves his right side very much open for aggression. Nikov's gonna have to mix in some more Eagles to hold this one, but it looks like he's gonna go for plumed archers. After all, that's probably the right thing to do in the long run, but he definitely has to scramble for defense over here, as he's gonna clean up these Eagles. It was a nice defense overall from Nicov, but probably wanted to avoid adding some more Eagles in here. Stonewall's coming in as well for Nicov, so he's not actually going to, you know, risk anything here. Just go for the safe play. And plumed archers will eventually be a thing. I'm not sure if he's going to completely switch to them. He made a defensive castle to protect the right side, that's absolutely true. But he's also not making anything on the barracks, so I wonder if we'll end up with plumes, because, well, Eagles have insane pierce armor, plumed archers are still good against them because they're fast moving and they have a good fire rate and you can make a lot of them, so they can still eat Eagles. And it looks like the idea here for BacT is that he tries to keep this wall open by stabbing this poor builder down. And if the wall is open, then the Eagles can flood in. But what a quick wall! What a quick wall here from Nicov! This could be so important. Never mind. I mean, it will be so important, that's for sure, but that quick wall ended up being underwhelming. I thought he actually had some HP on this house as well. Still, now the plumed archers are in the party. If Nicov will once again need to mix in some more Eagles though, because he doesn't have the Eagle numbers, he doesn't want to go for the upgrades, and his opponent sees that, you know, he's switching into plumed archers. So BacT will probably try to press on and secure this corner over here before Nicov can wall himself off. Scorpions are now in, and I think BacT's aggression here is actually paying off, because Nicov made a transition to plumed archers a little too early here. If Nicov actually added some more Eagles, he should be alright holding this one, as he's growing his plumed archer numbers. The problem is production. Look at this. He has 1 castle worth of plumed archer production, whereas his opponent is flooding Eagles from who knows how many barracks. Probably at minimum 3. Another defensive castle comes in. Once the plumed archer numbers start rising though, suddenly the Eagles will become worse and worse here. And I like this stone wall over here as well. Still, you're probably gonna have to have some walls over here for just to make sure that the Eagles don't run past the castle simply for Nicov. 28 Eagles on BacT's side. Nicov has just 8 plumed archers and 4 Eagles, so Nikov's army is really underwhelming over here. Eagles for the time being trying to keep this one open, as it very much seems like the monks from BacT were just mixed in to heal Eagles. You see that he's healing them up just like you would heal up your knights in a knight versus knight war. He didn't pick up a single relic just yet, and he will try to flank over here, but guess what? That's going to be a stone wall. Let's see if Nicov pulls this will and tries to trap that. Okay, it looks like BacT realized in time, so there's gonna be no chance for Nicov to trap. And Nicov feels so confident in his defense that he's going to launch a counterattack with the plumed archers. And that could prove fatal for BacT here. Remember, BacT is 25 vills behind, so Nikov's resources are soon looking good enough for Imperial Age. And considering that he just found that town center, he's now looking for the vills as well. This is looking really good for Nicov, because BacT isn't able to push in, and Nikov's gonna have stone walls up just in time to prevent the Eagles on the left side. So, defensive castles here on the right, stone walls on the left side. That will prevent our red player from breaking into Nikov's base. And Nicov is going to realize... Yep, he's going to realize that the Eagles are breaking through. Behind this one, the plumed archers are now pushing in, and as I said, good numbers of plumed archers will eat Eagles. as now they force away BacT from his gold mine. Nicov is going into Imperial, and the more plumed archers you have, the harder it is going to be for BacT to come back into this one. And we could be in for a 4-1 here, because as things stand, Nicov is all over the place right now. Now, he needs to make sure he doesn't lose his plumed archers, that's for sure, but we're getting another castle up over here, so there's a chance we'll have the left side being opened up. Nicov for now is just running away with the plumed archers, because doesn't have a lot of upgrades on them. He has +1 defense, and obviously Botkin, soon ballistics, but I don't think that he has Thumbring, for example. And BacT, look at the trap. He's trying to trap this army of plumes in here, and he actually does. There was some beautiful traps over there. BacT's army is still chilling around over here, but this is basically not impacting the game at all. New plumed archers join the party, and as I said, like, look at this. This is 17 plumed archers, and they still pick off egos relatively easily. Especially when they have the hill. This is why plumed archers technically are archers, and they're not supposed to counter egos, but in good numbers they actually do. That's still a lot of egos though for BacT, and he's getting close to Imperial as well, so Blade Warding elite egos would potentially be able to turn this one around, but BacT is on a timer, I would say. Especially because his economy is not great compared to Nikov's eco. And it's also worth noting that, as I said, plumed archers scale much better than egos do. BacT tries to trap this army once again, will be unsuccessful. By the way, Nicov is still without wheelbarrow or boso or heavy plow. BacT, not even horse color. So neither of these players actually bothered a lot with eco upgrades, that's for sure. As we have now 30 plus plumed archers for Nicov. That's approaching that critical mass, especially when you will have Bracer in for them as well. And as I mentioned, the castle here will probably open up a new front line on the left side, as we will have Trebs coming in for Nicov. He hits some big scorpion shots here on the right side, but BacT realizes that, oh shoot, I mean, I'm 2 minutes away from Imperial. I will have to wait for admin word to see if this is actually like 100% GG or a drop, because theoretically I could see BacT playing on here, because he's on the way to Imperial, but I don't think that he has the chance to beat this one. Like, he sees how many plumed archers there are, but that's basically apparently it. I don't see any admin word on saying that this is just a crash or a drop or something, so I guess we can say that it is GG. BacT, after losing to Togao 4-2 in the first qualifiers, he has had some good games all over the qualifiers, but Nicov, he was out here for blood, and Nicov, who basically lost a heartbreaker last week, he will still be there at the main event of Redbull Wololo. He looked really clean, he looked really confident, so motivated Nicov could perform really well in the main event as well. The second player to advance from the second qualifiers of Redbull Wololo 4 into the main event is going to be Nicov.